Well, hey guys, it's great to be with you all today. Happy summer. Hope your summers are all going well. It's really our privilege and our joy to be with you again. This again is our 24th AMA now, so it's 2 years in, and um, yeah, that's quite a number. It's quite spectacular, really, to think that we're here 2 years on, still building and growing the way we are. So thank you for joining us. Yeah, we're really excited to update you on this month's AMA. But again, before we jump in, we're just going to do a quick review of what is Kula DAO for those of you that might be here for the first time. And so yeah, we started Kula DAO now about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And it initially started out of a conversation really asking the question, is there a way to utilize blockchain technology to help local communities that live on or around assets to actually have a fair say, participatory voice, and also get some value from those assets directly to themselves, where commonly they're either displaced or lost to the development process, or don't necessarily get some of that value in their pockets in any way, shape, or form, whilst the larger conglomerates or governments would walk away with all the profits. And we looked at utilizing blockchain to answer that question and find some really use cases for it. And went through about 6 months of exploring to see whether or not that was possible, and landed on a design that we felt was pretty confident that would fit the bill. And that's what became Cooler DAO. And we went through then about 6 to 12 months of development of the ideas and the concepts, pitching it, having different conversations, getting the feedbacks that helped us refine and shape it. And initially, our original thought was like, we'll build the concept, we'll build the idea, we'll build the protocol, we'll launch it, and see if we get some investment. And if we do, then we'll put that money into some asset and see how it goes. And in that first 6 to 12 months of real development, we realized no, we've really got to try this as a process to see how well it works, because that's what we're taking to invest to help investors grasp the concepts and actually start to buy into the product and the project to grow it. And so we did that, and we invested in a limestone asset in Zambia as a proof of concept. We drilled some aquifers and did some corporate social responsibility work around that, but then worked with the local entity and put some investment in to start seeing how does the investment and the return work around the blockchain concept, and saw some really interesting results come from that in terms of working with that client and how the local community voting and participating in the choices around how the asset gets developed actually then bears the impact upon the local community in ways that would not be seen otherwise. And realize, yeah, we're really onto something. And this last 12 months or so, things have really accelerated. We've built the technology and been really vested. After 3 years of working in legal process and regulatory process, we're really pushed very far into that journey now, and are in a good place. But overall, that was the dream and the why of Cooler DAO, and wanting to give the opportunity for people that maybe don't get access to investing in these types of assets at a very close and personal way, and giving them the opportunity to actually put that money and that investment into something that they can see on the blockchain and interact with in a much more close way, and actually see what their money's doing and make some returns too. So we built a system, what we believe is a win-win system: win for investors, win for us as Cooler as a business, and then win for the local communities and the local developers on the ground. And that's really been the heart of the project. And that's where we started and what we've evolved. But the project's gone far beyond that in terms of what we've expected, in terms of looking at ways to consult for other businesses with what we've learned, actually looking at how to do equity asset management and development, and also then move into the regulatory space of virtual assets, which is really a cutting edge emerging sector across the planet. And our heart really is, again, impact on the ground, impact for communities, but also developing a business that is generous and really impacting everybody at every step and at every phase of the overall business design. So that's the heart of what Cooler DAO is, and we're thrilled to be here today with projects in Zambia. We've got projects now signed in a couple of other places around the planet, and we're evolving and developing those. Up in Nepal, we've announced that now, and we've been looking at MOUs in different countries, and we've got a lot of irons in the fire in terms of what's coming after we've gone through the regulatory process and launch. That's the heart of Cooler DAO, and that's why we're here today. So the purpose of this time is just each month we want to get together with our community, share what's been going on, share the news of the last month, keep people updated and close to the heart of what's going on with the project, and then give opportunity for any question from the community to be asked. And we'll do level best to be transparent and communicate back to you guys of what is going on. So often we get to the end of the time we give the updates and there's no questions, and so I'd really love it if you guys could be posting questions now in the Q&A chat, so we're ready to go once we've got through the updates that we've got for you today. It's just Sam, myself, and Taryn today. Mike is working with investors and otherwise engaged, so we're holding the fort today. But we're looking forward to sharing them this next 20, 30, or however long time it is with you guys today. So with all of that, I'm going to pass over first to Sam, who's going to give us some updates, and then I'll jump in, Taryn will jump in, and then we'll move to the Q&A. So don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A as we go along.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, so I am excited to report that we are the first project to tokenize underground water. And it really came from the work that we've done in Africa for the past few years. And this water resource that we have, we're like, why can't we tokenize that, put the asset on the blockchain for the world to see? And it has been a process, but it's really fantastic to see where we are today. So the platform is now ready, and we get to tokenize water. We need to prove to the world how much the water is worth. And once we have the asset tokenized, we'll come back to the community to report once again the actual token and how it looks like and where is it sitting and all that. But right now, we are already in the middle of tokenizing it. So this is really a huge step for us. Secondly, it's the summer, like Chris mentioned, which means we are waiting for regulators in a positive manner. We have submitted our full broker-dealer license application. But summer has been slow. So that's something that we're excited to and look forward to hearing the result of the regulator. But right now we're waiting. So while we're waiting, there are clients that have been coming to us wanting to become part of Kula DAO for fundraising purposes. But some of these projects might not fit as a regional DAO, as we have fairly strict criteria of selecting regional DAOs. So we thought we could probably just white label our services and help them fundraise, but provide expertise on both fiat and crypto fundraising mechanisms, what to watch out for, what type of things, not to do, because we probably have done them all. So we offer that service, and I think that's a beginning of another revenue source for Kula. So happy to report this part of effort to our community as well today. We are having a few more calls these coming couple of weeks to get that process solidified and onboarding a few clients. So we'll be happy to report the result of that in next AMA. Pass it on to, is it Chris or Taryn?
Okay. Back to me. Yeah. So yes, as Sam said, whilst we wait on regulators in the quieter summer months, we're not wasting that time, and we're doubling down, getting our foundations clear and working quite hard on some of the fundamentals that sit beneath what we need to have in place in order to launch well, right? So we can launch, but we want to make sure we've got a really good foundation. And one of those aspects which honestly, it took us a little bit like, oh yeah, we need to think about how we do this long term, is how we position and structure Kula as a business across the different components of the business plan that we have. So again, we've got the services and the white labeling that Sam's just been talking about, which is really, in a sense, a standalone entity that we can manage and run outside of a regulatory framework. And over the last few months, we've been waiting for regulation, but realizing we're waiting for regulation, we can actually be getting on and monetizing that side of the business. That then kickstarted into another set of thinking around, well, the assets that we have invested in, we can actually house them in a different type of entity and be more tax efficient. And rather than having the entirety of our business plan under one regulated entity and in one jurisdiction, it actually exposes us to a longer term inefficiency with regard to tax and actual management and of the operations, in a way that we can be smart and a little bit more wise with how we deploy and structure all of this in a way that allows us to create different entities that serve the purpose for which they're created for, but allows us to be efficient with both our tax management and also a recharging of the various different accounts across the group under one holding company. So we're working really hard right now over the next 3 to 4 weeks to actually restructure Kula into a more agile set of structures, which means that we are being more efficient, more responsible with how we manage the overall operational costs of the business in a way that we're not actually in some ways wasting money on onerous tax bills when we just don't need to. So it's been quite an interesting piece of work that we've been working on, but we, again, having those solid foundations in place allows us to move forward. And if we got the token approved on the issuance license last month, we would have launched and still done this work. It just would have been a little bit more difficult to unwind it. But while we've got the time, we're making the choice to really press through and get those structures laid as well as we can, so that we can keep growing and not have to do it later. And using the time that we've got whilst it's these quieter summer months to actually build and start to flesh out how we make money across the business and across the different entities that we have within the overall Kula group. So that's been a really interesting and actually really a rewarding piece of work to jump into and get going. And we, it's nothing too onerous or difficult to get done. It allows us the freedom to grow in different directions as well in the future, and we're really excited about that, as Sam shared with the white labeling work. So that's another update of what we've been getting on with in the interim over the last month. So with all of that, we still are moving towards launching this token, and of course that comes with the marketing drive. So I'm going to pass over to you, Taryn, just to give us an update on what's been going on in the last month on that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Chris. I think, yeah, from a marketing point of view, things again, they just keep, we're pretty much on the up and up. I mean, what's really exciting, as we spoke about, I think in the past couple of AMAs, is our priority focus. And that focus has always been on X, so, formerly known as Twitter. And it's been really exciting to see, one, how the community is engaging, but also how our followers, how our number of impressions, how our followers across all of our social media responded to that. We're now in a place where we're actually in surplus of over 65,000 across all of our social media following, which is, again, a great place to be, bearing in mind we actually haven't had that steep uphill IEO drive that's planned when we actually then have an IEO or an ICO or a launch date. So that's really exciting to have that strong of a foundation prior to that huge uplift is going to be something that's really exciting to get behind. That's also been followed through into our impressions. So one thing that I'll note is our number of impressions over the past couple of months have actually been in surplus of 800,000. Now, I just want to note that this is not including the impressions that have come from ads. That is purely just organic. That's no ads. If I was to include ads, then I can very easily say there's actually a surplus of 3.5 million number of impressions. But if we just focus on organic, things that we're posting, the team are posting, no ads behind, just organic push from both Kula, from our community members, then to say that we're hitting over 800,000 is actually quite an impressive feat. And again, the accolade and the strength behind that comes to the support of our community. So again, thank you everyone for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for getting behind our posts. And I can't I can't not mention the Kula ambassadors. We're now our second or third round of our Kula ambassador program. We've seen time and time again people getting behind our posts on social, so that's been really exciting to see. Again, all of this drive, all of this push has also followed into our Google Analytics. The term Kula has been increased in number of search month by month. We see a number of increase in terms of impressions on that side of things, a number of increase of hits on our website. And what's been really exciting as well isn't just the number of increase of hits, but also the location we're hitting as well. We're not now just focused around North America. We're not now just focused around Europe, but also having now structured and actually signed contracts in Nepal. We're starting to see hits from that side of the world as well. And as Kula launches, we're going to make it ever more clear and evident that Kula isn't just focused on one region of the world. Now having signed a contract in Nepal, I think we're kind of literally putting pen to paper and saying, hey, we're coming to a continent near you. So that's been really exciting, and you'll start to see a lot more marketing updates around Nepal. We're just purposely holding things back because, as you can imagine, it's part of a huge drive. And before I pass it over, I just want to kind of shed a bit of a highlight on what this drive is. As many of you probably saw, we quite quickly went up from, I believe, close to 10,000, social media followers on X. And then we've now at 35,000, and that was within the space, that particular drive within the space of a few weeks. Now, a lot of that, it takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of strategy. But what's been really exciting about that is it hasn't just been increasing followers, it's been an increase in engagement. And that's where Kula is different. We don't just focus on people and just for example followers. What we really want is to build a genuine strong community that actually gets behind the project, who believes in the work that we're doing, and then hopefully these will follow through into DAO members, they'll follow through into investors, and Kula Deans, as the community calls it. So Chris, Sam, I'll pass it over to you now. If anybody has any marketing questions or anything around the marketing drive, feel free to put it in the chat.
Thanks, Taryn, for that. It's exciting. It's really cool to see how quickly things have grown over the summer months in terms of community engagement and actually just the scope of the community. But well, it's super encouraging as we move forward through this year. Okay, it's time where we get to the Q&A. So please feel free to post your questions and answers. We have the first one from one of the community members that's recently connected with us and would be interested in learning more about how they can develop their ethically sourced coffee initiative alongside Kula. There's room to do so. And the answer to that is absolutely yes. I'm just going to put my email into the chat there for you to connect with me directly. Yeah, no, we are really very, very open to conversations with potential projects, whether or not they're fitting into a traditional kind of investment model or they just want consultative services of where that project can benefit from blockchain-based solutions to the real use cases that any project would have. So that's our bread and butter. That's what we're about. So very open to talk with you about that, and also there's any other projects. And I think one of the more encouraging things for me earlier this year was where for the first time we were reached out by a project in Malaysia from the internet directly to our website, and they've done their research, they've done their due diligence, and they found us based on the scope of what we do and their interest in blockchain solutions for what they were doing with regards to timber and ethically replenishing forests in the agriculture industry there in that country. So super exciting, and there's a lot more of those and a lot more of those irons in the fire. So we're super excited about what's to come. So please do reach out, and we will be in touch. Sam, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah. Let me shorten the question a little bit. Is how does our Double-DAO, Kula's Double-DAO structure balance and align interests of local stakeholders? In particular, I guess the question is regarding the POL and global investors, especially when it comes to tokenizing rural asset like hydropower or heritage sites. Appreciate this question very much. I think there are a couple of things to kind of talk about. Maybe I'll start off with some technical things, and Chris, I'll let you take over after that regarding the alignment of interests and community involvement. So there are two things. One is the definition of DAO. So I've been kind of saying about like the kind of the purest definition of DAO is not exactly implementable in the real world. Neither is it good for like the application, rural application. So I think so far we've been doing democratized semi-autonomous organization at best, and for a good reason. So our Double-DAO eco-structure comes about because if the top entity, is about to make decisions in terms of investment or community participation into those regional projects, why can't we open up the top organization as well, make that into a DAO? So hence there's a Double-DAO ecosystem. But if you think about it's really like a fractal sense in the mathematics, right? It's like you have a DAO and you have a real company, and you use SPV to link both of these, and you replicate that in the regional like a level, multiple geographic areas, and then you replicate that again at the top level, which encompasses like a holding pattern for all the regional projects. That's number one in terms of the technical design of the Double-DAO structure. And second thing I want to make a mention is tokenizing real asset, and why do we want to even do such a thing? It came about from a conversation I had with a few of our friends and community members who own gold mines. The thing about gold mine is it takes a lot of effort to get the gold out of ground and purify it and put it in the form of gold bars. And many times, at the end of that journey, the investor, when you buy gold bars, you can pretty much realize that at a spot value, right? So it's already been purified. There's not much upside unless you believe like gold is going to go up like crazy or something. But the upside really came is when you are the early investor, when the gold is still underground, but you know the gold is there, and you know the regional project has the capability of purifying it, the gold, and get it out of the ground, and the entire process is doable. So you invest at a lower valuation until the gold is finally purified and such, then you can realize your return. So is there a way for us to keep the upside for the investor, but still help the really early investors to reach liquidity event, right? Basically get their money back. So if we have an investor that already bought into the tokenized real asset while they're still underground or not yet developed fully, then the upside could be maintained. So the early, like round one investor could then sell it to round two investor, realize some of the upside, obviously not the entire upside, otherwise why would the second round investor invest, right? But they can realize that upside, so which is really good for the early investors. Second thing we realize is many times it takes like few years in the gold mine industry for the gold to be realized at a spot value. So by introducing liquidity into tokenization of underground real asset, we shrink that waiting period by about 2 to 3 years for round one investors. So then this methodology really could save the early investors both time and money and realize their liquidity. Second thing that's really cool about tokenizing real asset is once that's on the blockchain, of course, it becomes transparent, immutable, just like all the other things that's on the blockchain. But you could theoretically use that tokenized asset as a collateral and borrow money against that. So that's the private credit model that we've been mentioning, and that's another route of liquidity. So in terms of this tokenization, it could be used on pretty much everything. And it provides a regional project a way to have asset on their books onto the blockchain for the world to see without selling out, really. So that's like the cool stuff over here. So Chris, you want to talk about maybe the alignment part?
Yeah, I think the beauty of our model is really where we will not invest in a project where a certain portion of the equity isn't assigned to a community group or individuals within the community, and that's a bespoke design depending on the particular project that we face. So where we have projects in Zambia, they'll be different from where we have projects in Malaysia or Indonesia, and simply because the local context is different. But the point is there's an equity stake in the initial investment that is leveraged because we're putting the investment in with the local developer towards the local community itself. And that's really where the power of the blockchain kicks in. So because the individuals within the community stake, and they have the ability to vote and to participate in the decisions that the entire DAO make, like any other party. Now, it doesn't mean that they can override and stop things, but it means they've got a participatory voice in how their interests are actually protected and recorded. And because everything's then transparent, even to our investors in Kula and to the outside markets, the local developer is therefore then incentivized to play well, right? Because they're not going to let's make an example, they're not going to build a road through the middle of the village if the entire world's going to be watching, because it's very transparent. And so the power of the blockchain then starts to serve the interests of all of the different parties in them finding collaborative and win-win solutions to the development process of that particular asset. And to make it really concrete, I think in our first project where we did proof of concept, it was really fun to watch the local community and the miners themselves on the mine make a choice for men and women to get the same level of salary for the same level of job, which was one of the first places in the Southern African region, in that particular industry sector, which, kind of puts them ahead of, even businesses in my capital here in the UK. We don't even have pay parity on certain in industries still, even today. But through the power of the blockchain, we're actually seeing how interests do get aligned in the direction that serves everybody. And again, where the mine is in production, and there's a vested community in the direction of what that mine's doing, and that they will report there is more engagement, more ownership of the actual overall process of production. It's having an impact on the culture of that particular area and the respect that the community has towards that particular asset and that mining company, which is really demonstrable, and it's really soft in a sense. It's not very provable, other than we see it in the hard numbers and the clear choices that we then record on the blockchain. And that then moves into, it's a real buzzword these days, like ESG. So that's environmental, social, and governance controls on the international markets. And many corporate companies, actually every single corporate company on the planet, is now having to report their ESG compliance against United Nations and global standards in order to start making better impact on the planet. And we're able to demonstrate that in a transparent and completely watertight way through blockchain technology, which means we're having impact not only in a way that we can tell you, but in a way that is then verifiable to the external market in a way that it now has to be. So we're adding value again to the level of a company's bottom line on their balance sheet as they move forward in this particular area as well. And again, those things all converge in a way that in some ways we didn't really anticipate, but there's so much about a project that we really love and enjoy, that when we really get into the guts of what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to do and how we see those things unfold, and we think we never anticipated that outcome, but that outcome is adding value to the bottom line in a way that is making a difference for everybody, again, in that win-win paradigm that we have. So it sounds super utopian, and we've made loads of mistakes too, but for the large part, we're seeing some really significant impacts and changes by aligning those interests that way. So in Nepal, it will be the same. The community that we're investing into, so I'm going to go back to the specifics of the question that we're asked, but in Nepal, we're investing into a community. We're going to be helping and facilitate and building a new hydropower project where one's already been in existence, and then utilizing the energy, and the community will be part of that process in determining the where, the when, the how, the who that project unfolds. And then the power from that will be the equity share of that power will be given to the local community, which is transformative in places like that on the planet where children can only study between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. when it's light, to all of a sudden having another 4 or 5 hours of study time or open time to read or do things. It transforms a community when there's a solid supply of power like that. But then also the output of a very cheap electric supply, which will utilize for data centers and helping the nation of Nepal develop, but also the cost of that going back into the community for local development, better roads, and starting to see again some more of those ESG compliant and impacts manifest in that community over time.
Yeah, if I can speak a little real quick about the ESG effort, is something that Chris said, like, we didn't really expect. But if you think about it, as a centralized entity, if its sole purpose is to focus on the bottom line, ESG really is going against that mandate for a centralized entity. So it turns out if you put it into more of a decentralized manner where community is involved, the interest is truly aligned in that aspect of it. This is, like, people are doing all kinds of things to avoid greenwashing, right? Where a company really hide their effort of ESG and yet report it as if it's like they're doing things on it. But here, not only is the data reported transparently on the blockchain, but truly where it goes, the effort is taken in the decentralized manner. So we can realize ESG a little bit better than relying and trusting a centralized entity to do so.
That's good, Sam. maybe I'll just jump in and do this one, Sam, if that's
Mhm.
okay. This question's asking, as Kula continues to finalize the regulation in order to launch, do you see any delays? And I think, this is, again, we've been saying for several months, and in some ways it's hard to keep coming back to these AMAs on this particular question, saying, well, we're waiting and the regulators are working, and we're waiting and the regulators are working. And for many of you here on this call that on this call today, that that's your primary question. We understand the frustration too. So things have been very slow, more slow than we were promised or told, as we've been talking with the regulator, but we do know that they are moving. And even today, we saw another entity out of Dubai get its regulatory pass, which was exciting to see. So there's definitely things moving, but it's also, again, it's such a nascent and moving and freshly moving industry across the planet that, regulators find some problems in Hong Kong and it kicks back to Singapore and it kicks back to Dubai overnight. And that's not us, that's just the overall market. And regulators all trying to understand, where are the pitfalls here, where are the problems, where are the ways that we can innovate. And we're really beholden to that process, which, again, it can feel frustrating, but I think my biggest learning in this last 6 to 8 weeks of working in this process is I'm so deeply thankful for the quality and the capacity of the various different regulators and what they are ensuring is in place to stop really terrible things from happening. We don't want to be part of um, an ecosystem that moves millions of dollars from A to B for nefarious purposes, which we could do if we're not building in the safeguards and fail safes that we're required to do so. So we've been doing all that we can do to meet the expectations and requirements of the regulators. And whilst we're regulating, whilst we're going through the process of being regulated and regulating ourselves, in the interim, before we can even get anywhere near the question of a launch, the delays that we don't know are the ones that we don't know, and we don't know. And it's really hard in some ways to say that, but we wait. We just know that while we're waiting, we're doing all that we can to make sure that when we get a green light, we can be really speedy to the point that we push the token out the door. And even with that, once we get the green light, it's not going to be, oh, we got it today and we're going to launch tomorrow. It's going to take us a little bit of while to get things in order and our ducks in a row from that point too, just because now we can actually do certain things that we can't do um until we've got that green light. But we're doing everything we can do to make sure we launch on the strongest possible footing. And I think on one level, we've worked so diligently and we're so committed actually to doing this well and doing it right, and to being really a virtual asset service provider in the market that is responsible and follows through with its commitments, its compliance, and its risk and its governance, to make sure that we really are above board in every way we can be, so we can be an example of what it looks like to be right in the market. This is a sector that is plagued by scams, bad actors, people that are just looking to make a few dollars, well, quite a lot of dollars overnight, in a way that just screws the market. I think even as an aside, in April, I was in a meeting in Dubai and talking to this guy that had been involved in crypto for years, and he's like, "Yeah, we just play the game, and we built this token and we hyped it and we pushed it out and we made $4 or $5 million and we disappeared, and that's how it goes in this market." And I heard him say it, and internally, I was recoiling at the just a blatant knowledge and way that that game can get played. And that's really the antithesis of who we are and what we're about. We want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that builds long-term sustainable value for everybody, and really makes an impact. And so we're building to be here for a generation or more, and that's really the heart of who we are as a project. So maybe a longer answer than I set off to start with, and maybe more than what you wanted. But again, we're doing all our best to make sure that we're fully ready. And we don't know what delays may come or may not come. We just know that we're going to keep answering every question to the best of our ability and keep the regulator satisfied that we're a responsible corporate entity that can step into the market, and they can be confident in us that we're going to do a good job and not bring disrepute to their name, to the jurisdiction's name, or to actual the market itself. Well, we have run out of questions. Unless there are any more questions, we are at the end of today's AMA. Okay, Well, thank you so much for joining us, guys. It's been lovely to have you with us. Thank you for making it on a summer month when many people are either at a beach or taking a break. So it's great to be with you. We'll look forward to sharing with you next month as we step back into the autumn semester and all that's to come in this next few months. But we're looking forward to sharing the updates that things are actually going on right now. What we're looking forward to sharing with you next month. Take care.
Thank you.
Soon. Bye bye.